Hello composers, Mike here, and in this video I will show you an orchestral instrument collection called Pallet Orchestral Series by Red Room Audio. Let's check it out right now. Alright, so I have actually composed this short track using only instruments from the Pallet Orchestral Series. So let's listen to the music first, then I will break it down, and finally I will share my thoughts on all 4 products in the Pallet Orchestral Series range. Alright, so let me do a quick breakdown of this composition and show you what instruments I used and from which product inside the Pallet Orchestral Series. So let's start with the percussion group, which sounds like this. So pretty simple but efficient, and here I've added first trailer drums here, and by the way I'm using the Pallet Symphonic Sketchpad, which is the main product in the series. And the trailer drums patch here for the main accents. Then the percussion patch, which has ground casas here on one track. Then toms on another. Snares, and then finally cymbals. It should have the cymbals. Let's see, that image there. So that is the percussion group from the Symphonic Sketchpad. Then we have the drive group. Let's take a listen and look what's inside. Also from Symphonic Sketchpad, from the brass staccatissimo, spiccato on strings, and spiccato on the, let's say, high strings there. So it sounds like this. Right. The accents here on the low driving the main beat here, and then divided into low, boom, and let's see, high here. Just stacking it up, pretty simple stuff, but it gets the point across. Then for the bass I have bass and cello in octaves, and I believe this is from, yep, this is Pallet Melodics, the first brush pack, since it uses legato and has also these combinations which are actually really great. As well as tuba and trombone, and also I wanted to show that you can use it in complete control, as you can see here, all of the instruments in the Pallet range in fact. So it sounds like this. And so on, and then we have the backing tracks, which are chords or harmonies on strings and brass, going back into the Symphonic Sketchpad. Let's see how that sounds. Right, and then we have the front, which is the leading melodies, of course, from the Melodics. We have violins, legato, cello solo, woodwinds legato here, which is flute and piccolo in octaves, and then a patch called 6 horns, which is really cool, in fact. It sounds like this. Oops, the clicking is from my computer not handling. I forgot to freeze these. Alright, so then finally the FX section, where I have added the runs and Orbs, which are really cool, and I stacked woodwinds and strings in the same patch using the same MIDI channel, so they both play in unison. Then I also labeled these clips just for ease and clear layout. So here we have an A minor run. Let's listen. Then the G, another variation. Then here, D minor. And also here I used the cool MIDI drag and drop feature to stack it with the cinematic strings. So this is the only instrument in this composition that's not from the Pallet range. The cool thing about that is that these runs are of course real recordings. So this is the range you get, which is the most obvious range for runs. However, I wanted to have them higher. So I dragged out the audio or the MIDI to this track and then I transposed it an octave up, and it still will be synced to these runs and arps here, which is amazing. And then finally for the orchestral effects, obviously from the orchestral effects brush pack. By the way, I'm not using the FX Builder, I'm using this one. And here I just tried out various effects. You can also tune the effects individually, by the way, which is really cool. And if you hold down the Option key or the Alt key, you can tune it in semi-notes, like you can see there. And use this one. Let's see. Another one here. And as you can hear, the effect suddenly drops out, which sounds weird on its own, but in the mix you really don't notice it, because the effect actually goes on for longer. I just cut it at the note here. And then finally I have this tension cluster thing in the end. So that, in fact, listen to that in context again. I believe I actually did the best job there with the final orchestral effect. Right, so that was my composition, all using the Pallet Orchestral series of instruments. So Pallet Orchestral series starts with their flagship product, Symphonic Sketchpad, and then adds on what they call brush packs, which are essentially extra add-on products which cover other colors of the cinematic music composer's toolkit. The Symphonic Sketchpad gives you access to the complete orchestra from strings, brass and woodwinds, including chamber sizes on all those sections as well, to percussion, piano and even trailer effects. Here are my favorite things about Symphonic Sketchpad. The expression sliders at the bottom, a very clear layout of the articulations, custom editing of the articulations, no pages to browse through in the interface. I also like the visual image of all percussion instruments in the interface, and I love the fact that it is NKS compatible, which means I can see the mappings on my native instrument's complete control keyboard. The first brush pack to Pallet Orchestral series is called Melodics, and is of course focused on writing melodic and lyrical lines in your music compositions. Personally, I love the fact that there are true recorded combinations, meaning no scripting, but actual unison and octave recordings of these instrument combinations. Here are my favorite things about Pallet Melodics. True recorded instrument combinations, as I just said, true legato on most of the instruments, easy to adjust the focus of the combinations in the mixer by adjusting the mic options, detailed control of the legato in the editor, also that it is fairly dry recordings, so you can add your own reverb later, and finally, it is of course NKS compatible, meaning I can see the mapping in my NI complete control, and that is the same for all of the Pallet range, by the way. The next brush pack is called Pallet Orchestral Effects. This is a very important type of orchestral library for your composer toolkit, in my opinion, because you can't really make these type of orchestral effects sounds with a standard orchestral library. These are unique performances of both classic and very unusual orchestral effects that can be used to add tension, drama and energy to your music compositions in a very organic way. However, I have to confess that it took me a while to learn how to use orchestral effects like these. I had trouble learning what sound to use and when and where. I guess it's because I was not really used to using these types of sounds myself. However, I learned that by adding just a hint of them here and there, like spices, it can really level up your music composition in both quality and interest, as well as add that important tension and energy. Here are my favorite things about the Pallet orchestral effects. The orchestral effects builder, where you can layer up to 4 independent effects. The categorization of the effect patches is really neat. Also, the consistent articulations mappings. Quick customizations with mic controls and a effect rack, and that it is NKS compatible. Then we have the final brush pack called Pallet Runs and Orbs. Runs and arpeggios are incredibly important in orchestral and cinematic music to give it that flair, flow, and spark of energy. Programming runs can be a tedious job, considering the timing, the scale, direction, etc. Pallet Runs and Orbs features both strings and woodwinds ensembles performing scales in 6 common modes, each with up to 13 variations plus 20 kinds of arpeggios. And the best part is that these are real recorded phrases, not scripted, which makes them particularly lively and organic. Now here are my favorite things about Pallet Runs and Orbs. The interface shows the scale key and even the notes up here. The key switches and mappings are very well implemented. It's also unified mapping of both the woodwinds and strings or runs and arps, so you can basically layer woodwind arps with strings arps in the same contact plugin. Detailed control over the sound, timing, and sync of the arps and runs, but the best thing is that it has MIDI drag and drop, and this is a blessing to have available because it means you can take any particular run or ARP that you have activated and then drag and drop from the interface to another instrument in your composition. And finally, it is NKS compatible, which I personally love since I have the Complete Control keyboard. Amazing! That was the entire Pallet Orchestral Series collection. Here's my overall impression. I'm actually totally blown away with how much content there is in the Pallet Orchestral Series. The Sketchpad alone covers pretty much all you need to compose orchestral music, at least get started. And with the added brush packs, you really get all the colors you need. A full palette indeed. Subscribe now and watch a lot more videos on composing music, producing music, sound design, Logic Pro X and much more. I'll see you in the next video, my friends.